So I thought I'll kind of lay a foundation on change, because I want you to get the most out of this. And if you have read books, if you have gone to seminars, if you've gone to different things, you get lots of information, you get tips, you get tricks and all kind of things. You write stuff down and then you put it into the corner. And sometimes you implement maybe 10% or I don't know, but usually it's not super much. And so what I have noticed is that lasting change comes from insight and realizations. Because the way you see the world is how you act towards the world. That's where you see how people see the world, not intellectually, okay, but on a fundamental level. The way you see the world is determining your behavior. And if that perspective shifts, your behavior shifts. Okay, so insight and realization, in my view, is the unit of change. So if I see something that changes how I see the world, my behavior changes. Now, okay, that sounds very nice. I'll give you a concrete example. A client of mine, she told me she was in about 30 years in an abusive relationship. And one day she woke up and she's like, what am I doing? So that moment when she woke up, she said, what am I doing? She had an insight. And from that moment, she got out and she never went back into those kind of relationships. Okay, so that changed. That changed how she acted and how she went about her life. Okay, so change, in my view, always comes through insight and realization. Now you can have practices, you can do things and all of that, but in the end, it's an insight that changes that, and it's an insight that determines the behavior that you do. So for this workshop to be useful for you, and not just something that's nice and nice theories and stuff that I tell you, what will make a difference to you is what you see for yourself. Okay. If it just stays at the level of this is a nice idea, then it's not going to really make a big difference in your life. So
Sorry, excuse me, I didn't get the last.
If it just stays as a nice idea, it's not going to make a big difference in your life. And it's not so, yeah.
You know, and I've heard this before,
yeah.
But I think the difficulty is to actually, you know, how can I see it? You know, I see it the way I see it,
yeah.
And I'm trying to
yeah.
see, you know, where is something that I need to change to improve things.
Mm.
But it's very hard to find it yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's what I find. Yeah.
It can be hard to find by yourself. That's why I'm a coach. Because I get coached myself. So I get regularly coached because I've seen how useful it is. And it's a great question. How do you see it for yourself? So what I've seen as useful is if my listening improves, I get more insights, because if we listen, I say something, and if I'm going to ask you, all of you, what you heard, I'm probably going to hear 4 different things. At least I was once in London there, I did a small exercise with 3 people. It was in a training, and I told them something, and then I heard 3 different versions of what I said.
Right.
So what we hear is not necessarily what has been said, right? And what often happens is that someone says something and we do funny stuff in our head, and it comes out as something we already know, right? But that's not new. It doesn't change the perspective. So the level of listening, the more openly I can listen, and the more I can find something that's new and fresh and that can change, the more I see the world. And so with my clients, what I've seen is that when my clients improve their listening, when they listen better, it literally is the turning point for them. It literally changes the way that their sessions go and become much more impactful.
But it doesn't have to be listening to the words, right?
No.
It can just be like paying attention, listening.
Yeah, because I mean, if it's just conceptual listening, just the words that are here, then again, it's just conceptual, it's just nice ideas that you hear. But sometimes you can hear, I mean, you probably had the experience, you read a book and you put it away, and at some point you come back to it and you read it and you're like, this book is so good, that wasn't there before. Well, it was there before, but you didn't see it, right? And you find it so good because it touches something in you. It's not just nice, because the information was there before. It's the same information. but somehow it touches you. And that's where the change really comes, when something touches you. So when I listen with people, or when I'm with people, I listen for impact. I listen to be touched by something they say. Because that's what really generates change.
May I ask you a question? You say if you don't listen to the words, you can. But actually, if you don't listen to the words, then you start to interpret, and that leads to another perception. So at the end, if I sum up what you said, it will be something else as what you actually said.
Well,
is it right to do so?
Well, I mean that's possible. What I see when I say not just listening to the words is, it's like, I mean, just looking at communication. We talk, right? That's one thing. Then there's the body language. There's more, right? There's the tonality. There's more. And so when I say not just listening to the words, it's the whole message. It's the feeling behind it. It's not just the ideas that come to it, because ideas can point you in a direction. Do you understand what I mean? It's being more like just getting stuck on the concepts is kind of stopping you from actually going beyond that and making it your own.
But a lot of that is inside me.
Yes.
I listen to you, you tell me something, and I listen to it, and all my experience and all my information comes in and makes it into something.
Yeah.
And which can be something totally different from what you thought you said.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And so I will be checking in from time to time to just see what's going on with you. That's for me to see what you have heard. And I do that with my clients all the time. And I do it for myself as well. So you tell me something, I'm like, okay, did I understand you correctly? You saying this, right? And they're like, yes, or they're saying no. I was recently at a party and someone asked me if I have learned something about quantum physics or something like that. And I heard something completely different. Completely. Like, I don't even know, it's not even related to what he said. It's like, so we do that from time to time. It's very natural that happens. So, but I'm just checking in, and I want to lay the foundation, because it's easy to think it's in the theories and it's in the ideas that the value is. But as said, what's going to make a difference in your life is what you see for yourself. And this is really important. So my job basically is to help provide a context where you can have insights for yourself. The good news, though, is that insights and realizations is not something that's rare. It's not something that's out there and happens once a lifetime. Okay, in my view, we are wired for it. It's in our nervous system. We have learned this way. Like, just watch a kid walk. It has basically insights and realization around walking, and you realize, oh no, it doesn't work this way. It doesn't say it that way, but it adjusts and keeps adjusting. At some point, it learns to walk. And the way I see it, we have always learned that way. That's how we progress in life. So, and I can just ask you, think about, when do you get your best ideas? Where are you? What do you do when you get your best ideas?
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, like you described with your client, that she somehow got this insight, but that's interesting. What lead to this insight? Because it's difficult to, even for yourself at least, I think that it's difficult to kind of trace back what happened, or what led to some change of.
So I ask those questions to lots of people, and what they usually answer is, in the shower, when I wake up, I go for a walk, I'm driving a car, and I'm listening to music. Einstein, he went and played the violin when he was stuck on a problem. And so in general, it always sounds like, well, they didn't really think about the stuff and suddenly kind of came. And if that's the case, in my experience, that's the case for me as well, if that's the case, it means it's wired in us. Because if it wasn't wired in us, we would have to try and acquire it and do something and whatever. But actually, it pops out of nowhere. So by definition, you have it. And it's innate. So all of you have the capacity for insight and realization.
Innate.
Yeah, innate. It's in you. It's in you. It's not something imposed. It is in you. You're born with it, which is great news. Really, it's great news.
And may I also?
Yeah.
Can you define maybe inside realization? What did you talk about that?
Yeah. So, an insight for me is something where you see something that changes the way you act and behave towards the world. So, for example, you can have a big insight like this woman had when she got out of the abusive relationships. That was like this. One thing happened and she was like, I'm out. And you can have an incremental thing where you see something, you're like, that's interesting. Something's happening. You forget about it. And you see something again. And you forget about it again. But what you've seen has still changed you because you can't unsee what you've seen. And so over time, those insights accumulate. And actually a friend of mine, he went to a workshop that was going this direction as well with insights, and he was about 6 months in or something. He's like, this is not working, I'm exactly the same and stuck and all that. And he was ranting, and suddenly he's like, actually, my life's completely different. So what happened is that the change kept happening, but you have a concept, you have a self-concept of how you are and how your life is. And often we're relating to that, what we think we are. And so the changes were happening. At some point, the changes and how the person perceived it was so big of a difference that he was like, shit, that's true, it's not. Actually, there's lots of changes now. But it took time for him to actually see. We always notice it the last. We're always like, we're like, no, nothing changing, and actually people saying, you're different. Something changed.
Is insight.
Yeah.
Because I understood inside.
Insight, yeah. Yeah, insight and realization. Yeah. I like the saying, I mean, that's not a dictionary thing, but I like the saying, insight is a sight from within. It's something you see for yourself. And so I'm not asking you to believe me anything I'm saying here. Okay? Just you have to see it for yourself, because that's what makes the difference. And if you have questions, like you have had questions, that's good. Ask me. I'm here to serve you fully in those 2 hours. Anyway, so that's kind of as a foundation, as a basis for today.